Key 3 week is over and we got a ton of game announcements at all these various showcases, and it's a very special RPG roundup this week because we're going to go through the best RPGs that we saw and the biggest RPGs that we saw and potentially the smallest RPGs we saw. Who knows? Well, let's go. Firstly, let me know in the comments which of these RPGs you are most excited for. And we're going to start out with Diablo 4. We got some pretty decent chunk amount of gameplay shown for Diablo 4, and also the announcement of the last class in Diablo, which is the Necromancer, which will be joining the Barbarian, the Sorceress, the Druid, and the Rogue. They also announced cross-play and cross-progression between different platforms. This Diablo is a shared open world with hundreds of dungeons to be able to complete, and they've also mentioned that the world will change based on your action. So if you clear out a dungeon, maybe some people will rock up there and join that area. They also talked about endgame and future content coming to the game and lots of really interesting things, and it looks really, really good. I'm very interested to see more about this game and hopefully get into the beta, which you can actually join as well. There is a beta registration page up as well, and this is coming in 2023, so not too far down the road. Next is a small RPG. I told you we'd get some small ones, and that is Flintlock. This is the next game from A44 Games, which are a New Zealand developer, which is just across the pond from me, and they made Ashen, which was a brilliant Souls-like game that came out a couple of years ago. Highly recommend you check out Ashen, and that's why this is on my radar. This one is open world, which Ashen was kind of, but not really, and this one's open world with it's that same action RPG style, still has that Souls-like kind of combat DNA to it. A lot of the animations have similar feel, but this looks like a much more expansive and higher budget title, and in this one, you will be tasked with taking down the gods. And I'm assuming some of these characters that we see the player fighting in this trailer is some of the gods, but essentially you'll be roaming around the world doing that kind of stuff, and this has that Souls-like DNA, same as Ashen does, but it just seems like it's going to have a lot more to it. And this is coming in 2023, and in this one you also have a cute pet. Nightingale is a upcoming first-person PvE open-world survival crafting game that can be played solo or cooperatively with friends. There's a whole lot in that, but that is essentially what it is. So you can build, you can craft, you can fight various creatures, and you can explore the different worlds. Now this has this weird exploring between these portals, so you have like a home base world, I guess, and then you can open up using these cards, you can open up portals into other worlds and explore them, which is a really interesting premise. And this is coming to early access at the end of this year in Q4, and it is almost like a rite of passage. If you're making a survival game, you have to come to early access for some reason. But the difference with Nightingale, from what it seems like, is this looks like a much more budget and polished survival title with a really interesting mechanic with these different realms that you can explore to by the different card system and how you can get there. And while this is a new studio, which doesn't bode well for these early access games, this is coming from ex-BioWare devs. So these devs definitely have made things before, and there's definitely something special that looks to be coming with Nightingale, which we will hopefully get a good look at in Q4 this year. Wolong Fallen Dynasty is a dark fantasy action game from Team Ninja. These are the makers of the Nioh games, which were fantastic. This is set in a later Han Dynasty, or a kind of a version of it where these crazy shenanigans are happening like demons and stuff. But you play as a nameless soldier here, skilled in Chinese martial arts, so stepping away from the Japanese style from the Nioh games. This trailer was mostly cinematic, but it does say that this is coming in early 2023, so we won't have to wait too long to see more of Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Marvel Midnight Suns got a bit more of a breakdown and some previews during the Summer Games Fest window. This game is coming from the XCOM dev, so you can see a lot of that DNA from that turn-based strategy style RPGs that they have made in the past, but this is featuring a card system, so you use cards to like cast abilities and skills. Very different, very interesting, no microtransactions, so you're not buying these cards or anything, they're unlocked. Really unique in its style. The RPG elements are what really have me intrigued about Marvel Midnight Suns, because you have like a home base that you can return to with your superhero companions. You can chat to them, catch up with, what's happening with Iron Man and Doctor Strange, and you can befriend them. Some of them you can befriend, then you can't befriend others in the same playthrough. There's some interesting stuff there with the dialogue system and the way that this looks, and mostly we saw a lot of good stuff in the previews, not so much in the trailers. So if you're interested in this one, I'm not really sure, I would recommend to check out the previews that did go out, as the trailer just really doesn't show you anything about this game. But it's coming in October 7th, so not too far down the road. Soul Hackers 2 is an upcoming RPG developed and published by Atlas. This looks very Persona. If you have played the Persona games before, you will look at this and see exactly where it comes from. However, this is set in like a cyberpunk Japan rather than the traditional style from a Persona, which is a bit more realistic in like the world space. This is much more of a supernatural style game with that neon lights of like a cyberpunk environment. But it is very Persona-like because it is a offshoot of the Shin Megami Tensei series or franchises, so you will get a lot of those same kind of creatures and DNA from that turn-based system in this title. But if you have any interest in Persona, there's probably a chance you'll be interested in Soul Hackers 2, which is why I put it on this list, and that's primarily why I'm interested in it, not gonna lie. But that's coming out in the 26th of August, so not far down the road. Gotham Knights is a Batman game with no Batman. Batman is dead, so you're gonna have to save Gotham City with Batman's former cronies, Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Robin. This is an open world action RPG that you can play solo or co-op with the 4 different playable characters. This is an interesting title that sits with that same DNA of like the Arkham Knight games that you would expect, with that dark gritty style and the combat from those that you would expect. And this is different in that it's co-op and you can play between the different heroes rather than just playing as Batman. Don't really know how to feel about Gotham Knights, and I'm really interested to know what you guys think. Every time I see this game, I'm like, huh, cool. Looks alright. I'm just not really interested or not interested. Like, nothing has really told me I should play this game or told me I shouldn't play this game. I just don't feel any attachment. I guess that's the right word, attachment to the title. Looks okay. It looks like something might be really good here to play with friends, but we're just really going to have to see more, I think. Now, before we get to our number 1 on this list, I want to go through some quick honorable mentions that aren't necessarily like the biggest RPGs or even strictly RPGs, let's say. We'll start with Redfall. Now, this is an open world co-op FPS, and this is developed by Arcane, who made Dishonored and Prey. Now, this isn't strictly an RPG, but it did show briefly that there is going to be a skill system. There's also some like looting and weapons and stuff that you can find. So there is RPG elements in this title. Just thought it was worth calling out as looks very interesting. You know, it's got like a Borderlands style to me, but with some of that Arcane DNA. It looks like Borderlands cross like Deathloop, I guess, if I really was trying to boil it down. Minecraft Legends is a new action strategy game coming from the Minecraft Mojang team, and this will allow you to lead allies into heroic battles across the overworld to defeat the underworld, essentially. So this looks really interesting, cute little art style, not really strictly an RPG, but that action strategy kind of genre. Pentiment is, however, an RPG, and I considered actually putting it on this list, but it is one of those smaller titles, and so it's getting an honorable mention here. Now, this comes from Obsidian, those legendary developers of RPGs, which are making, Avowed, Grounded, Pillars of Eternity, Fallout New Vegas, all that good stuff. This is made by a very small team, and it's a Disco Elysium style game set around the 16th century Germany. It's like a historical mystery focused on character development, heavily stylized art, and choice-driven storytelling. So that storytelling is absolutely going to be the biggest thing here. It's not about combat or anything like that. It's just about the storytelling and the narrative being told. Obsidian are great narrative designers. I'm very interested to check out this title. When I heard that Obsidian were making a Disco Elysium style game, I was very interested, but then I saw the art style for this and my interest kind of teetered off a little bit because it just didn't really grab me, but I'm definitely going to check this one out. I really want to see what this is about, and this art style is super unique, so it's definitely worth checking out, I think. Number 1 on this big bad list is, you probably guessed it, it is Starfield. Now, we got 15 minutes of gameplay and I have a video breaking down all of the details, so go watch that. I won't go into super detail here. We'll just go over some high level stuff. Now, if I had to describe Starfield to you in 10 words or less, I would say it's No Man's Sky cross Fallout with a sprinkle of Mass Effect. That is essentially what Starfield is, and to me, that sounds great. There is great character customization that was shown with the return of like backgrounds and traits, and it seems to have real world effects into the choices you make here. Plenty of exploration with the 100 systems and 1,000 planets. Some of those are obviously going to be just procedurally generated with just resources to collect, but something that we will get with any Bethesda game is that handcrafted locations with NPCs to talk to and quests and things to do, and that's going to be the real standout here. It sounds like a lot when you say 1,000 planets, but there is going to be a portion of those planets and areas that are handcrafted by Bethesda with actual stories and quests and things to do, and the different factions and how they interact. It's going to be plenty of really interesting things in Starfield. Ship combat, ship customization, flying around in your ship, doing all sorts of ship stuff, lots of ship things. Ships are pretty cool if you like Starfield. And the last thing about Starfield that I didn't mention in my other video, but I'll mention it here, is that they announced on Twitter that there is a silent protagonist and first-person dialogue. So returning to probably the closest would be Oblivion is to what I would say in terms of a Bethesda game that you would expect here, is that silent protagonist with that nice and close-up first-person look at the player's face, similar to Outer Worlds in a way as well. That is the list for today. Let me know in the comments down below what you're most excited for on this list. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.